Welcome to another episode of the Guard Hour. I'm your man Nat Busy, aka Nat Burnz. Peace, good brother. How are you?
Yo, what's going on, boss man?
I can't call it Mike Spoil it. How you doing, man?
Man, life's good, brother.
If you could just take a second, man, and introduce yourself and tell us what it is you do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm Troy Spry. I'm a certified life and relationship coach. I'm a speaker and I'm an author. But really, what I do, man, is I help people get out of their own way in life and in love, right? So
That's
that
real.
that's what I do, man. So I have a brand called Exclusive Thoughts. So I run a website called exclusivethoughts.com. And of course, y'all know you already talked about the book, right? Teaching how to love.
Absolutely.
I know you were talking about the tagline, but it's while what you don't know will hurt you.
Why what you don't know will hurt you. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to unpack
absolutely.
that in a minute. We're gonna unpack that. We gonna ease into this thing, brother, because
Yes,
I know this
sir.
ain't for the faint of heart. You know what I mean? You know.
Absolutely, man.
So
Absolutely.
I hear a bit of a drawl. So where you from, bro?
So I'm from South Carolina, but I live in
Okay.
North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm in North Carolina for about since 2011. So
No doubt.
I'm a Carolinas guy.
Kakalaki. I was just in Charlotte in January. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
man. Next
Charlotte,
time you
nice
come, you
place.
gotta link with me.
Oh, that's a fact. That's say less, man. That's definitely gonna go down.
If I can tell by the by this accent.
No doubt. I'm from Hempstead, Long Island, New York. I'm from Long Island, a town called Hempstead. But I've been out here in Baltimore recently for the last 2 years. But prior to that, I was here for a number of years. I've lived in Atlanta. I've lived in New York, New Jersey, all over, man. I lived in Seattle. I'm a traveler,
Hey, nothing
man.
wrong with that.
The premise of my show is live and learn because that's what's been happening with me. As I've been living, I've been learning. And the one thing I know is that I don't know everything. You know what I'm
Oh yeah,
saying? So
absolutely.
so
I'm with you.
so you can teach me some things today. You can teach us all how to love, man. You know, like before we get into it though, man, can you tell me what was it that led you into the journey of being a life coach and then a relationship coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So the short version of it is so for always tell people I started off as just a writer, right? So I've always been a writer. I always let people know that when I was like in high school, I was the guy that all the homies came to when they needed a love letter for their girl, right?
Oh, I remember the
So
guys like you. Yeah, for
you know what I
sure.
mean? So they needed a love letter, they needed a poem, they needed something like that. They would say, "Yo, write this for me." So I've always been gifted with words, right? I didn't realize how gifted I was until later, right?
Hmm.
And so just kind of fast forward my first blog ever that I wrote was called A Mother's Love, right? And
Hmm.
so it's because my mom had passed away back in 2011, and so I
Sorry
didn't
to
know
hear
what to
that,
do
bro.
with it. It's okay, man. I've dealt with it now, but it's one of those things where I didn't know what to do with the emotion, right? And so I just
Hmm.
wrote about it, and so I didn't even know what a blog was at that time. So I just Googled something, and I saw something called Blogspot. So I wrote the blog, and I sent it out to social media. And next
Hmm.
thing I know, I start getting all these, inboxes and letters about, oh, I write in this. I can really relate to your writing, blah, blah, blah. So then I came down to writing what was natural to me, which was about relationships. I just started writing about it. The situations I was hearing out in the world every day, I just started writing. And next thing I know, people started inboxing me for advice. And I was like, why are they inboxing me? Like I'm just a normal dude, just writing, right? And so then one day, just so
Hmm.
happened, this is how God works. I was on Twitter one day, and I saw somebody that was a relationship coach. His name is Stefan Speaks, Stefan Labassiere. You'll probably see him on social media. Shout out to Stefan. And so I reached out to him, and I was like, "So tell me what a relationship coach was." So he was like, "Look, just link with me." So I drove down
Hmm.
to Atlanta, linked with him. He taught me how to get certified as a coach. He taught me about how the business kind of worked, and then I started building my brand from there. Right, so I
Hmm.
got certified. I started building the brand because I realized I had this passion for what I call my mission is better people, better mates, better relationships, better communities. Right. So
Absolutely. It makes
I
sense.
think they all go together. So that's what the life coaching came from better people, right? Sometimes in life we gotta get better first. Then we become
Yeah,
better mates, right? And once we
no
become
doubt.
better mates, we have better relationships and we build better communities that way. And so the audience just grew and grew and grew. And next thing I know, they kept asking me for a book. I was like, all right, I guess I gotta give the people a book. So I wrote the book, and that took me into a lot of other areas, just writing for big publications and speaking and all kind of stuff. And now I'm here.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Now I heard you say that you were just writing at first, and you were writing about something you knew a lot about, which was relationships, and that's how
Something I
you kind
thought
of
I knew a
segued
lot
into
about.
it. Something you thought. That's what I wanted to clear up, because I was going to ask you, because you sound, significantly younger than me. I don't see you with a lot of this wisdom in your
I got a
beard
little
like
bit
I
of,
got.
I got a little bit.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Yo, it'll be like this in like 3 days, brother. Trust me. But
Yeah.
so what was it that made, what led you to, I know you talked about the loss of your mom, but what led you to relationships specifically? Had you been in quite a few, or had you been in one that had that kind of impact on you?
Yeah. So I had been in a few, and here, the truth, the big part of the story is growing up, I saw relationships from both lenses, right? So I saw what an unhealthy one looked like, and I
Mm-hmm.
saw what a healthy one looked like. I
Wow.
saw my mom and dad go through phases of their relationship where some of it was healthy and then some of it was unhealthy. And I
Right.
realized that I liked the healthy one was so much more productive for me, right? It
Absolutely.
left me with a lot better memories. So I started thinking to myself, when I talk about contributing to society, what are
Mm-hmm.
the things that I can do to make an impact on the world, right? And so I figured out this was my niche. Like the relationship space was where I could have an impact because that's what I research. That's what I love to learn about. That's what I love to talk about, right?
No
And so I
doubt.
realized, well, the biggest gap was information, right? Because you don't naturally just know how to be in a good relationship. Nobody does. It's
Yeah.
just all you do is mimic what you saw growing up. That's really what
Mm-hmm.
your experience is. Either you mimic it or you go the opposite direction of it, right? And so I
Yeah.
started saying, okay, so how can I bridge that gap a little bit and give people knowledge on it? And so I kept living. I lived my own relationship. I'm married now. Been married now 8 years. And so it all
Congratulations,
kind of
brother.
comes together. Yeah, man. So so I always tell people I look young in age, but I've always been wiser, right? I always had
No
some
doubt.
wisdom. And a lot of that wisdom, man, is just being willing to learn versus just going through the
Mm.
motions of it, like being willing to learn it. So that's where I got it from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's dope, man. That's dope. I like the sound of it. And we gonna
Yep.
get to the nitty gritty. I kind of just still want to get to know you a little bit, because
Absolutely, man.
um
I'm an open
so
book, brother.
no doubt. I appreciate that, man. So you're a natural writer. Um,
Mhm.
that led you to, penning the blog that deal with your emotions under the loss of your mom. It
Mhm.
also led you to writing about what you thought you knew a lot about, which was relationships. I'm sure there was some study that came in once you realized you probably didn't know as much as you thought you did. And where did that study come from?
Absolutely.
What was some of the reference material?
Yeah, so for me, it was a lot of following the experts in the field, right? So like the Paul C. Brunstons of the world, the Black and Married with Kids. I studied all the experts there. The Dr. Goodman with the 5 love languages. All those people. So the coaching part, the certification in coaching, taught me how to run a coaching business, right? But the
Okay.
the content on relationships was from studying the experts in the field. That's
Oh,
it. People like Dr. Lord, Dr. Berman, so many different people. I started ingraining myself into it. I started seeing all the common themes. I was like, okay, I understand what some of the common themes are about relationship. And then that's how I became expert in it. And I always tell people in the audience, like, look, my title is relationship coach, but that doesn't mean that I know everything about relationships, right? Because I still got some seasons that I got to live through. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
But I do feel like I have enough information and I've coached enough people now to know that it's impactful, that I have enough information to get people on the right path.
Absolutely. And big shout out to my lady, Exposure with Life. She said, was it life experience? And he did touch on that a minute ago, that yes, part of it was life experience. Big shout out to
Hmm.
DC Millie and
What's going on?
Miss L and everybody who's checked in thus far. Welcome, man. I appreciate you guys. And seems like, I'm just trying to, because I know I may even hear some things that I don't necessarily want to hear, but may need to hear.
Hmm.
And I'm just trying to clear some space in my mind to be able to ingest it, to where it can do the most good. Um,
Absolutely.
so what was your first foray into life coaching? Like, do you remember the first client that you got as a life coach?
Yeah, I remember it was a female, it was a woman. I remember her very vividly. And the coaching part on the life coaching part was she was in a rut. right? She was
Uh-huh.
at this point in her life where she didn't know what her passion or what her purpose was. She was trying to figure out what career to go to next. She was just like,
Mm-hmm.
I just need some guidance, right? And
Mm.
so we started working. We started working on it. We started saying, okay, let's do the self-reflection piece of this thing. I started learning, helping her understand what are the things that she was passionate about, what are the things she was good at, what are the things that other people think she's good at, right? Okay, if you
Yes,
had an
sir.
ideal if you had an ideal career, what it would look like. So we started taking all those things, and then we helped her get on a career path. Next thing I know, and I think I still have the testimonial on my website, but she had found her gift. She had found her purpose. You know what I mean? And so to me, that's what it's all about, right? It's
Absolutely.
and coaching to me is not about me telling you what to do, right?
Mm.
Coaching is helping you to discover what you already know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I like that because I've often wondered. I know I know not quite a few, but I know a couple of life coaches.
Hmm.
Yesterday, we had a lady on who was a life coach, and we
Hmm.
had one on prior to that as well. And I always wondered because basically the information you shared with me that you gave to this young lady,
Hmm.
it seems invaluable. It
Hmm.
seems priceless. So I always wondered, like when you're doing something like that, not to be pocket watching, but how do you even build somebody as a life coach? Like, how do you
Yeah,
put a dollar amount on what you're doing to change somebody's life? And not that you have to get into a
absolutely.
dollar amount, but how is that structured for people who may be considering either
Yeah.
becoming a life coach or seeking a life coach?
So what I always say is number one is go research the field, right? So there's different life coach certifications you can get, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the trick of the matter is you don't even have to be certified to be a coach. I always tell people you just got to be good at what you do, right? To where people are willing to pay for your services. And if they get results, then guess what they'll do? They'll tell somebody else, who then tell somebody else, and tell somebody else. So
Word of
it's just
mouth.
like anything else. It's just like a service that you're providing. You're pretty much people are paying for your guidance. You know what it's like? It's like a personal trainer. Right? Think about
Mm,
it. Everything about how to lose weight you can go on the internet and find. But
absolutely.
people pay personal trainers every single day to do what? To help give them a plan, right? And then to
Yeah,
help motivate them and hold them accountable to that plan.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
what they pay them for. And so it might be $25 a session. It might be $50 a session. So what I like to do, I don't like to break people's pocket, right? Because to me, it's more about the passion than anything. And honestly, unless you're trying to get rich off life coaching, that's where people start
A little
charging
stuff.
inordinate amounts of money. There are some people that are very expensive like coaches. I get it. That's their whole gig. But for me, that's not really what it's about. So I got I would say a middle of the line pricing when you look at the
Mm-hmm.
marketplace of life coaching, and I just give it to people and say, okay, here's what I charge. How many sessions do you want? And they can choose to either want to pursue it or not to. So I
Okay.
really would say if you want to know pricing, you look at the market. You start getting mentors and other coaches. Like a lot of life coaches have coaches.
Wow.
A
Yeah,
lot of them
that's
do.
dope.
You
That's
know what I mean?
dope.
I've had multiple mentors, to help me through this whole path. So that's kind of the process of it. You know what I mean?
No doubt. And Exposure with Light also asks, do people listen to your advice?
Absolutely. I do. I think so,
Mhm.
because I hold them accountable to it. In fact, I won't coach people that won't follow the plan.
So you
You see
fire
what I'm
the
saying? So,
clients sometimes, like, oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I'll tell a client like, look, if you're not, I don't want to waste your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you, it's almost if I was a personal trainer and I gave you this meal plan and you decided you wasn't gonna eat it the right way and you kept gaining weight.
Mm-hmm.
Now I look bad because I'm
Mm.
your trainer. So the whole same thing with me. I don't want to look bad because you don't want to change the things that you need to change in your life. So
Yeah.
therefore, we just may not be a good fit.
Yeah, and I see the designer nerd diva said that she lives by your advice. You know what I mean? And that's
I
dope. You got
appreciate that.
testimonial in real time. You
There you
know?
go.
So that's the life coach portion of it. Now we're gonna move into this relationship aspect. Do
Hmm.
you recall the first relationship client that you took on?
Absolutely.
And
It
how
was
was
a
that
young lady.
process?
So what I used to do a lot more than I do now was I used to always give these free consultations. And I remember
Okay.
the young lady. She was in a situation. Essentially, it was a situationship. It was one of those
Mm,
situations where she was into a guy who didn't quite want to make her his girl, but she was
mm,
into him. She was in love with him, so she was doing all the girlfriend things, but he wouldn't claim her, and she was trying to figure out, well, I don't know what to do. And so I just
Mm.
help her explore it. I helped her explore, ask the right questions. Okay, so what is it that you really want out of this relationship? What is it that he's showing? Okay, what is it that he's saying? Do those two things align? Okay, so what do you think you should do in this situation? And most
Mm.
times the client knows what they should do. They just need someone else to help them come to the conclusions on it.
Mm.
Most times they know in their gut what they should do. So she ended up leaving the guy alone, but she felt free afterwards. I actually write about her in my book. But
Wow.
so it's one of those things where you help people free themselves by giving them and empowering them to make a move or to make a decision. A lot of times people just stay stagnant because they have no one pushing them to make a decision.
Absolutely. And I would assume that where your part comes in for them is that, because I'm sure these people have asked their girlfriends, they've asked
Mm-hmm.
their friends, family members, and they've gotten probably some of the same advice that you shared with them and
Mm-hmm.
disregarded it, but because it's coming from an impartial person such as yourself, that probably I'm assuming that's what makes the
It's
difference.
a lot of that is what makes the difference. But the other piece of it is, remember, people can only give you what they have, right? So if your
Mm-hmm.
friends are in the same situations, then they might validate it. You know what I mean? A lot of times you got
Mm.
to realize with people too. People tend to only go to people that are going to confirm what they want to be true. Most times they do. So
Absolutely.
everybody has those friends, right? Where they know if I go to this friend, they're going to confirm me. They're going to affirm me the decision out that is not good for me, but they're going to say it's cool. So a lot of times they just need a
Mm-hmm.
third party that's not. I always tell people I'm not emotionally invested in your situation, and sometimes that becomes an issue because I'm very blunt and direct. Whereas
Absolutely.
whereas your friend is going to sit there and get emotional with you sometimes. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say here are the facts. So now that we've laid the facts out, what is the conclusion of the facts?
Mm. So how frustrating is it for you once you lay those flat you've laid those facts out flat
Hmm.
and they still go in the opposite direction of
Yeah,
the of the of the facts and of the advice.
absolutely. So it's frustrating because you can see what's going to happen before it even happens. You know where
Hmm.
it's going, but then what I also am very good at is understanding the human element, right?
Hmm.
And people don't. A lot of times people aren't ready to make a real decision. So sometimes I have clients who will literally reach out to me, say it's January, and I give them, the plan and advice. They might not reach back out to
Hmm.
me till 6 months later and be like, okay, now I'm really ready. Right now I'm ready because they've gotten so tired of being sick
Okay.
and tired. So it's frustrating for me, but I also know that if I give them the blueprint, when they're ready to receive it, then they'll act on it. So they're not always ready to act at the time that they reach out to me. That's just the reality of a lot of people. But at least I'm going to be impartial and give them the right advice, or at least what I think is the right advice.
No doubt. I'm feeling that. So, your book, can we get
Mm-hmm.
a brief synopsis of what we're dealing with that book?
Absolutely, man. So it's my baby. I love it. I mean, it's one of those books where I wrote it for people who are tired of being on what I call the emotional roller coasters when it comes to dating and relationships, right? So it's the people who have been up and down in relationships, and really the reason why they can't go straight is
Hmm.
because they lack information and perspective. So that's what I wrote it for. So it's not just for
Mm.
people who are single. It's not for just for people who are in a relationship. Because at the core of the book is self-reflection. By the time you finish the book,
Mm.
you've now had to peel some onions back on yourself. And now that's where it all starts. That's where the work begins. I even have a workbook at the end of the book that makes people have to sit down and what I call face themselves. And so for me,
Wow.
the book, what I love about it is because it's like a conversation. Like the same way you and I are talking, if you read the book, the whole tone in the book is me talking to you.
Absolutely.
It's like us on this live
Okay.
right now, and I think that's why people read it pretty
Yeah.
quickly. They're like, oh, okay. And I made it short. It's only like 100 pages. I did that on purpose
Mm.
because our attention spans just ain't what they used to be, right? And so
Yeah.
it makes people get straight to the core of it. But the book is done well, man. I always tell people go if you don't believe what I'm saying, go to Amazon and read the reviews, right? When the people
Wow.
start speaking for you, then you don't have to continually pitch your book. It's just one of those things
Absolutely.
where people start to. That's when I started believing it, though, bro. It was
Mm.
like whenever you launch a book, have you ever written a book before?
No, I haven't. I'm working on something right now, but I haven't thus far.
Okay, was you one of the things you're gonna see is when you write that book is you're scared shitless. I mean, you're sitting there, you're like, how are people gonna receive what I put out into the world,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
make
so you're
music,
scared.
so I know
Oh,
that
so
process. Yeah.
it is. So you put it out. You're like, man, how are people gonna receive it? So I was
Yeah.
nervous. I didn't know how they would receive it. But then I started getting the feedback, and the feedback taught me that I was in the right place. I was hitting the right
Absolutely.
pressure points. So that's really the book in a nutshell, man. And I titled it "Why What You Don't Know Will Hurt You" on purpose, right? It was a play on words because we always are taught what you don't know won't hurt you. But I think that's BS, frankly. I think that
Mm.
the reason why a lot of relationships don't last and a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are on emotional roller coasters is because they don't have the information. You see what I
Mm.
mean? Because there's a skill to relationship. It's not just like, I think what we know is we know the feeling of relationship. We
Mm-hmm.
know the lustful piece of it. We know, okay, I want to sleep with you when I see you. Like, we know how it feels to be in love. But as far as how to execute on building a healthy relationship and how to build a healthy, esteem within ourselves to even be able to be in a relationship, that's a different skill set. And so what happens
Absolutely.
is,
So let me.
go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
Now go ahead, because I didn't want to. I didn't want to end your thought. You're a little
No,
frozen.
so
You were a little
yeah, the
frozen
last
for a
thing I
second. Go ahead.
okay, so the last thing I was gonna say is a lot of people that I think the gap between people just existing and actually thriving in relationships is information.
Mm-hmm.
That's the gap. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want to do is be able to fill those gaps.
Okay. So one of the questions I've always had, and this is something I've been discussing in private with people, is
Mm-hmm.
what constitutes intimate or romantic relationship outside of consummating it? Or when
Mm-hmm.
does it start? Because I feel like most relationships are starting now at the place of consummation.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have sex with a person, you feel like this is my woman or this is my man. But I don't really feel like that totally qualifies the relationship just because
Yeah.
we've you know what I mean?
No,
So
I
what would you
totally
say
get
to
what you're
that?
saying.
Yeah.
So what I would say to that is I always tell people clarity is king, right? Clarity is
Mm-hmm.
king. So until you have a conversation about being together exclusively, then you're not together exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this is what I see all the time. I see one person thinks, oh, we had sex, so we're together. Right. Or, oh, we spent a lot of time together, so we're together. Meanwhile, the other person is like, nah, this is just casual. And so
Mm-hmm.
6 months down the road, we have the dreaded conversation. That it sounds like, well, what are we doing? What are we? That's the conversation that ends up coming up. And one person's like, I thought you was cool with casual. And the other person's like, nah, I really want to be with you. But if we would have had the conversation up front on what we were looking for, what our intentions are, if we would have had those conversations, then no one would be confused. But what I've learned is people are afraid of those conversations because they fear rejection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I fear being let down if I want one thing and that person wants another thing. And that's the problem because people let it draw out. That's why you'll see somebody dating someone for 2-3 years and it never goes anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I get it, man. It's just such a touchy situation.
Hmm.
It's a touchy conversation, but it's got to be had. And I'd rather have it here. Where we, like I said, we can live and we can learn through it together.
Yep.
What I've noticed, because I've heard this from other sources, people that are in the field, such as yourself, and other people who study from other people in the field, they say you should be dating with intention.
Yeah.
All right. What are your thoughts on that? And then I have a follow-up question to that.
Absolutely. And so the verbiage I put around it is dating with purpose. Same thing, right? So dating
Mm-hmm.
with intention, dating with purpose, meaning you should know where you're going. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be a committed relationship, but you at least have to be honest about what you're looking for. So if you're looking for something casual, then you need to find someone that aligns with those values, right? Someone
Mm-hmm.
else that's looking for something casual. If you're looking for a committed relationships, then you need to be putting yourself on a path to find someone that's looking for a committed relationship. If you're dating for marriage, you need to put yourself on a path that to find someone that's dating for marriage, right? So my point is,
Absolutely.
if you don't have a compass, how do you know where you're going? What people tend to do is they go with the flow. That's like the buzzword, right? Hey, we just going with the flow. And I always say, if you're going with the flow, you're setting yourself up to drown. That's what you're doing.
Cool.
Because people with different intentions link up all the time together and end up frustrated and resentful of each other, right? because no one had those clear intentions out up front. And I know why people do it. Number one, it's rejection, but number two, it's I don't want to push the person away, right? I don't want to push someone away because I make my intentions clear. Well, at the end of the day, if you push those people away, then that's a good thing because their intentions don't align with you. And so you save yourself a lot of heartbreak. You save yourself a lot of heartache and confusion because you were clear about what your intentions were. And I think we just got to be more honest with each other because you believe it or not, there's somebody for everybody that's in the same season that they're in. So if you just want to be casual, I guarantee you there's someone out there that wants to be casual. Go find that person. But don't go find the person that wants to be married and then try to be casual with them. That don't work.
It's getting real in here. It's definitely getting real in here. If you're pushing away, they weren't meant for you. Okay, I can hear that. Now, the other part to that, because I've heard you say that your first two clients were women.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of male clients? And when was the first time you picked up a male client, especially in the way of relationship coaching?
Yeah. So absolutely. So male clients, yes, to answer your question, yes, I have male clients, not nearly as many male as female clients, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Number one is men aren't taught to express themselves, right? Men aren't taught to talk about their feelings. They're taught to suppress their feelings. And so you ask a man what's wrong, he say, I'm cool, even though he ain't cool. You know what I mean? And so to come to a coach, it takes a lot for a man to let his pride down enough to say, I'm going to talk to another man about my feelings, right?
Yeah.
Or about where I am in life. It takes a lot, even though it could be really beneficial for him. But that's because his whole life you've been told, you just man up and handle your business. You see what I'm saying? But if he's lacking information, then it doesn't help him at all. You see what I'm saying? He can man up all he wants to. So that's one reason. Number two, what I found is men tend to come to me when they're on their last leg in their relationship, when they're about to lose the love of their life. You see what I'm saying? And they're like, I need to get my stuff together, and I need to show her I'm making an effort to get it together. That's when men tend to come to me, and I'll try to help save them, but a lot of times it's too late by then. You see what I mean? A lot of times they done lost a woman by then. Or the third time they come to me is if they're in a relationship and it's couples therapy. A lot of times the woman will suggest that he comes, or I'll say, hey, I would love to have a session with him alone, because then I can get his real perspective. You see what I mean? I can't get his real perspective when she's sitting there trying to talk for him. I can't do that. So those are kind of some of the things that I go through when it comes to men. Now, what I will tell you is, men will shoot me messages in my inbox all the time, though. Right? Yo, bro, tell me what you think about this. You know, I'm in this situation with my girl. Tell me what you think about this. Now, they might not go through a full-on coaching packet, coaching thing with me, but I might hit them because I want men to talk more. I'll be a little more lenient and I'll give them some advice, or I'll shoot them some information or whatever it is, because I want men to be able to talk more and express themselves more, because we have feelings and emotions just like women do. We're just not allowed to talk about them, which is not a good thing.
Absolutely. Now, have you ever ran across a situation where the roles were reversed, where there was a man who was pursuing a woman and he had a certain set of intentions that was more than what she wanted? How would you coach a brother through that type of situation?
Absolutely. I coach the brother the same way I coach the woman, because if the intentions don't align, because I see you'll see men all the time, they constantly going after a woman, after a woman, after a woman, thinking they're pursuing her. Right? They're thinking that's what they're supposed to do. They're thinking, like, I'm the pursuer, I'm supposed to keep going. But realistically, she's pushing him away because she doesn't really want to be with him, but she's just not trying to be mean. You see what I mean? But he sees that as, I still have a chance because we're taught, keep pursuing, keep being persistent. And I'll tell him, okay, here are the facts. Right? You've asked her out. She's made excuses 3 or 4 times. You've asked her, what her intentions are. She said she doesn't want anything serious. You've asked her, why she can't make time for you. Okay, she hadn't done that. What are the facts telling you? The facts are telling you that she doesn't want this. So I coach them the same way I coach women, man. You'd be amazed though at the amount of men who go through that though.
Absolutely. And Exposure with Light, man. I appreciate how you coming with these questions. She asked why white men talk more about their feelings than men of color. I just say that you know, for the longest time, as we could see what just happened in the news today with that brother who just went for a jog through a neighborhood and was killed by the father and the son, we're so marginalized and so ostracized, and we're taught not, you know, me personally, I've said it out my mouth, and some people can attest to it if they know me personally on here, that sometimes I feel like I'm not allowed to have feelings. Feelings are dangerous for me. If I have a feeling, it can go from me being the angry black man to me being a threatening black man, or me being a soft black man, or me being a sucker, or being this or being that. So you try to keep it middle of the road so much that it's almost like you're numb. But what would you say to that same scenario?
Oh man, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think we're just socialized differently, and because we don't have white privilege, right? When you don't have white privilege, your mind is so preoccupied with so many other things that feelings is the last thing you think about, right?
Absolutely.
You're trying to look at how you're being perceived. Does somebody think you're soft? You know, is somebody gonna try to take advantage of you if you show weakness? Meanwhile, we're suffering from mental health issues, you know, at a rate that other people aren't. Our depression rates are higher. Our suicide rates are higher. So the data supports that we need outlets, but
Yes.
our pride sometimes tells us that we shouldn't have it. And I think we're getting better at it though. As people are starting to evolve, we're giving men, especially black men, platforms and more permission to feel. And I'm gonna tell you the key to all that though. At the end of the day, bro, if we can do that, we will be better in relationships. We will be much better in relationships because we are allowed. You know, and I'm gonna say something that a lot of the sisters ain't gonna like, right? But I've found that a lot of times women don't want men to have feelings unless it's convenient for them, right? And that is an issue, right? So I'm gonna say it one more time. A lot of times women don't want men to have feelings unless it's convenient for you. So it's okay for him to have feelings when he's telling you how much he loves you and how he feels about you. Because women come to me all the time. My man won't talk. He won't tell me how he feel. Okay, but when he does tell you how you feel, how many times have you thrown it back in his face? Right? How many times have you told him to stop whining? You know, how many times have you created an environment where that's okay, where I'm not going to be judged? Because once you judge me once, I'm probably not going to do it again. You see it? So that's where I'm trying to bridge those gaps. That's where the information comes from. Because a lot of women just do what their moms did, right? Their mom told their brother, get up, stop whining, stop crying, man up. That's what she told him her whole life. So when she see a man that's like, I'm hurt about something, she like, man up. And guess what he do? He mans up, and now he cold. I can't open it and close it when it's just convenient for you though.
What woman? This is age specific because my circle would beg to differ. And that was my guest from last night. How are you, Carolyn? Yeah, she's a woman of a certain age, so you know, it's definitely generational. I feel
Absolutely.
Because I'm a man of a certain age. I'm unapologetically close to 50. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how old you are, but
35.
35. So yeah, you got a little while, you know. And you know, I remember being 35 and being married, having a young child at the time, and pretty much living the life you're living with probably a lot less information. But I will say at 48, I entered that relationship I was in at 35 when I was 28. I found myself back on the block, so to speak, at 38, almost 40. You know what I'm saying? And the whole landscape had changed. You know, it wasn't really you meet somebody face to face. Hey, how you doing? Can I call you sometime? Everybody's on social media now. That's the new singles bar. And that was really different for me. And still difficult to adjust because people are getting catfish. People are, you know, it's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So I know the younger generation, they may have a whole lot of other factors in their situations than we had during my time. And anybody know if you peeling back the layers of that onion, it's gonna make you cry sometimes. You know what I mean? You're gonna get a little emotional. And what I will say too is when you run into these relationship problems as a woman and you're vulnerable, a lot of people want to say it just comes with your gender. As a man, as we just discussed, we're perceived to be a lot tougher. what I've noticed that when these relationships don't end well, there's a different scenario for women than it is for a man. You know, because even when the woman is following the advice of her elders or something, a lot of grandmothers, mothers have probably told her, "Oh well, the way to get over one man is to get under another." Whereas a man, when we got out of a bad relationship, the first thought comes to our mind is, "I'm not ever getting in no relationship no more." You know what I mean? Like, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? I'm done. I'm a playboy to the death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you encountered those kind of clients, or are those the people that usually avoid you?
Oh yeah, man. Look, let me tell you. So one of the guys that's big in the relationship space is Tony Gaskins, right? One of the things he says in his book is that men,
That's my dude. I met him before.
when men break up, they don't heal, they hoe, right? And so and to me, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, look, I might not want to be in a relationship again, but I'm still gonna go sleep with some women, right? I'm not gonna let them get close to me, but I'll go sleep with them to make myself feel better, make my ego feel better, those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
And so what's crazy, I have met men who are so closed off, but then they say they want a woman. I'm like, well, you can't have it both ways, bro. Right? So
But I see it on the other side too.
oh yeah, it's definitely on both sides. So what happens is the number one rule, I think, to pursuing relationship is you have to be emotionally available. If you aren't emotionally available, then why are you dating? I mean, if you're dating just for sex, that's one thing. But if you're dating to find a relationship, if you're not emotionally available, if you're still at a point where you haven't healed enough to let someone in to even love you, then somebody's going to end up hurt. That's what's going to end up happening. So until you peel that onion back and you say, okay, first things first, what did I do wrong in that relationship? What could I have done better in that relationship? Or what did I allow in that relationship that caused me to get this result? So until you say those I questions, then all the other stuff, you know what most people do? Most people go to their girlfriend or their homeboy and say, she wasn't this, he wasn't that. And it becomes this blame game because it makes you feel better. That's easier to do. But see, I'm the type of person, which is why they do avoid me a lot of times, is the first question I'm going to ask you is, what did you do?
Mm.
And everybody doesn't like that. They don't like that. Or a lot of times when I hold you to the fire and I make you start looking at yourself, then it becomes this thing called accountability. But what people don't get is with accountability comes empowerment, right? So if you hold yourself accountable, now you are empowered to change the things that you did wrong. But if no one points them out to you, what you gonna do?
Yeah. I just want to take a second and salute you real quick, brother, because I'll tell anybody, I'm a cynic, man. I'm a tried and true cynic. I'm a tried and true New Yorker, so we're not impressed by a whole lot. I question everything. I'm always
absolutely,
yeah,
I get it.
So when I like I said, I've met Tony Gaskins before. I went to one of his seminars before. There's a couple of other guys I see that come across the feed, you know, on reposts and things of that nature. And one of my first instincts when it came to brothers such as that was they're pandering, you know, especially like the Steve Harveys and things of that nature. And I always felt like they're taking advantage of the vulnerable women who are just looking for direction from somewhere. So, you know, when Steve wrote the book, Think Like a Man, I was one of the people that was kind of put off by it because I'm like, I don't want no woman that thinks like a man. Why would I want a woman thinking like me? You know what I'm saying? I want a woman to be her, you know? So pardon me on that because, you know, when I knew that I was going to speak to you, I was in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if he's one of these pandering brothers that's going to just be saying what women want to hear and pitting them against us. And now we're still at this war because you've told her that shouldn't accept this or that or the other, and how, like, you know, because almost it's like I always felt like dudes of that ilk were breaking guy code, so to speak.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Giving up the dirty laundry, the secrets, things of that nature. What I've gotten in this short period of time from you is that you're a straight shooter. You're coming across the board with it. You're holding everybody accountable, even yourself, and how you're delivering the information. What would you say to women that are out here looking for that advice? Because they might not choose you. You know, everybody, you know, everything is different strokes for different folks. Some people may not want to talk to you because you're going to tell them the truth that they don't want to hear. So they go to the next person.
Yeah.
What would you say to some of the brothers in your field that are pandering, and how women can avoid that, or anybody could avoid that?
Eh, No, absolutely, man. So let me break something down. Number one, I appreciate what you said, right?
Hmm.
Because when I got into this space, I studied it first, right?
Hmm.
And I made a conscious effort, right, to say that if my mission is better people, better mates, better relationships, better communities, I can't pander to one person because two people are in a relationship, right? Now, I understand why people do it. It's easier, right? It's more profitable to do that, right? It's easier to get people talking. Your buzz is bigger when you get a bunch of people talking like, well, men ain't this or women ain't that. But if the common goal is to create better communities, I can't do that and sleep well at night. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I always tell women, look at the consistency of someone's message. If it's always consistently pandering to one gender, that's
Hmm.
probably a sign for you, right? If the whole time somebody's telling you how great you are and how bad men are, do they have your best interest at heart, right? Because
Absolutely.
ain't no way you perfect. Ain't no way women are perfect. Ain't no way men are perfect. So if you got people out there that's just doing that, the question you have to ask is, are they genuine about what their goal is? I know what my goal is. I know exactly what I'm aimed at doing. And in order to do that, I might not get the biggest following, right? If I want to change my approach today, I could get a huge following because
Absolutely.
I know how to push certain
Buttons. It's
buttons,
all
right?
good. Yeah.
Right? I know how to push certain buttons to get a reaction, but that's not my goal. My goal is to bring people together. So I can't do that if I'm pandering. You see what I mean? And as
Absolutely.
far as the advice piece go and the coaching piece of it, I always tell people, man, look, I have this is not my only source of income, right? So for
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
I don't need to like oversell anything. In fact,
Absolutely.
I stopped promoting my coaching business for a while because it was taking too much time away from my family. You
Mm.
see what I'm saying? But I do still take clients as they come. But you never really see me on the feed saying, "Hey, contact me for coaching." If people come to me, they come. I'm cool with that. I'll coach, but I don't
Yeah.
overly promote it because at the end of the day, I want people that's serious about it.
Oh, definitely. As it pertains to that, let's get real for a moment. How is
Hmm.
that? How does that work, translate in your personal relationship? Because I'm sure, like you said, there are many more women that are reaching out to you for coaching advice than there are men. You're a married man. You're relatively young, so I would take it your wife is somewhere around your peer group and your
Yeah,
age group.
she's yep, she's
So,
2 years
so
older.
how is that on 2 years older? So she may be a little bit more refined. You know what I mean? Because I would wonder, how does that play in your relationship when you got all these women reaching out to you for advice?
Hmm.
Does it, because my dad used to say stuff like, my dad was a mechanic, and he said, when you want to know which car belongs to the mechanic, it's the beat up one, because he never gets a chance to work on it. He's working on everybody else's car. He doesn't hardly get a
Yeah.
chance to work on his own. So how does that play in your relationship?
First of all, I love that quote. That's a good quote right there from is your uncle you said?
Now, my dad, my father.
Your dad, your dad. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's dope right there. I'm gonna have to steal that. But I've actually had times in my career where I've literally had to slow down and take a big break because I was spending so much time with everyone else's problems that I wasn't paying attention to what was right in my face. You see what I
Mm.
mean? One of the best things that ever happened though to my relationship was my wife became my editor. So all the blogs and
Mm.
stuff I wrote, she started to read, or she had to read because she was editing. And so it opened her brain up and her mind up to a part of me that she never knew before. Right? She
Wow.
opened her brain up to some of my a lot because a lot of my blogging is just thoughts. You see what I mean? It's situations and thoughts. And so she was like, okay, so now I get it. So if I were to post, 6 things that your man wish he could tell you but he can't, she'd be like, oh, so you think those things too? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so
Yeah, that could
and
be
so it
that could be a
actually
little touchy, right?
it can be, but I tell you one thing she did to me, it was probably a month ago, right?
Mhm.
And she was like, I was saying something, we was into it about something, not arguing, but just, having a disagreement. And she said, well, you should take your own advice.
Oh, she hit you with your
She
own
hit me
bullet
with it.
there. No, yeah.
She hit me with it, and I was like, damn, you right. I probably should on this topic or whatever it was, right? So yeah, so I agree, man. Sometimes you get so caught up in the business of it and taking
Yeah.
care of everybody else. Like I've actually had to get off social media from like a month or two at a time just to have focus time with the
So
family.
you had to do some social media distancing.
Absolutely, because that's how you get caught up. One comment leads to another comment, leads to another response, leads to another,
Hmm.
conversation or whatever it is. Next thing you know, it's an hour, and you've been doing this for an hour.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
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 it
yeah.
definitely. To answer your question, yes, man. I've definitely it's held me a little more accountable in some ways in my own relationship.
Because I would think people would probably look at you and say, if you're a relationship coach, then your relationship should be perfect.
Absolutely not. And so that's
Yeah.
actually one of the things. Until we become perfect people, we won't have perfect relationships. You see what I mean? As long as we're human,
Mm.
you will not have
And
perfect
nobody's perfect.
relationships.
Yeah.
No one's perfect. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with relationships, though, is we have this false perception of relationship goals, right? And I'm like,
Mm.
nah, that's what you see on
I
social
hate
media, but
that.
you didn't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't see that before they posted that picture, they just had a whole conversation or argument about XYZ. You didn't see that they slept in separate beds. You know what I mean? The night
Yeah.
before, you didn't see none of that
You
stuff.
didn't see what happened after that picture.
There you go. And so
Yeah.
I think that's we do a
You know.
disservice to relationships with that kind of stuff because we don't peel the onion back. We don't show people, and that's actually where I'm going with my next book, right? Is I'm about to peel it all the way back
Mm.
and say, look, this is
Mm.
the reality of it. And until you embrace the reality of it, then you shouldn't even sign up for it.
Mm. Man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're the truth, bro. I appreciate you, man. Now,
Nah, no
and
problem.
I want to cover as much time as we're running out of time. You know, we're never running out of time. We're just going to use this time wisely. Um, what would you say to people who base a lot of their relationships on zodiac signs?
Ooh, man, to me, here's the thing for me. I'm just not into it. I'm just not a big
Mm-hmm.
fan of zodiac. I mean, I'm a Gemini. I might roll with that and have some fun with it. But I don't dictate my life on. I don't base my life on it
Yeah,
because I really feel like if you read any zodiac sign, if you ever
yeah,
read like that stuff, you can. It's almost one of those things where you can relate it to any situation, so it doesn't feel very specific to me. And I'm
yeah,
not saying that against people that really believe in it. I'm just saying for me, it's not my thing. I'm more about here are the facts. Here's the behaviors you got to change. Here's every person's different. That's just kind of my thing. I'm just not a big fan of it. You know what I mean? Now, if you do it and you can come to me and show me some proof that it
yeah.
dictates your relationships in a certain way, then I'll listen all day.
Yeah, I'm kind of laughing a little bit because you're getting killed. You know, I mean, there's people got some problems with Geminis out there.
Oh, I
You
know.
know,
I know it.
a Gemini is an air sign. I'm an Aquarius, so a lot of my good friends are Geminis and Libras and things of that nature. I call myself friend of everybody, though. I can understand everybody for who they are, and
Hmm.
but I do think about that sometimes because I've met people that are hell bent on, oh, I don't date Aquariuses, I don't date this sign, I don't date that sign because they might have had a bad relationship with somebody of that was born in that time of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get your take on that, man. So as we narrow it down,
Hmm.
what is something? Let's give us a few things that you would want people to take away from this conversation, and also give people a few reasons why they should either buy your book or
Hmm.
at the very least have a consultation with you.
Oh, absolutely, man. So I always look at relationships like from a it's like a pyramid, right? It's like number one, well, at the bottom of it is self-reflection, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what are you willing to do differently? Are you willing to look at yourself differently? Are you willing to hold yourself accountable? If you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't even be in a relationship space, right?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't even start it, right? And then the next thing is, what are you willing to sacrifice, right? Because if you're not willing to sacrifice anything, then the relationship space isn't for you either, because that's what relationships involve is sacrifice, right? And then
Okay.
the next part of it is, are you willing to serve, right? If you aren't willing to serve someone else, then relationships aren't for you either, because that's a selfless act, right? It's being willing to serve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part is, at the top of it is, do you think about your legacy, right? What have you built, within the structure of that relationship? You see what I mean? What is your ultimate goal? Is it to leave a legacy? Is it to build an empire? Is it to just be a good example? Whatever it is. So my thing is like you got to be leveling up every single time and looking at this thing a little bit differently. So that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it for people that date, because I know this is a lot of people on here are dating, right? And they're confused and they're on that emotional roller coaster. And a lot of times that's why I tell them to get the book. But I always say this. This is one thing I always leave people with is when it's right, it's easy, right? So if it's really hard, it's probably not the right person or the right situation. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to go through hell and hot water. I cannot stand struggle love. I hate the fact that we promote struggle
No doubt.
love within our much. Struggle love isn't normal love, right? Issues that we see over and over and over again. You froze up on me. You still there?
No doubt. Yeah, I'm still here. You froze up a bit too. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Yeah.
And so
Tina Whitaker. I just want to address Tina Whitaker. She said she stopped listening to teachers who weren't in relationships themselves. And I don't know if she knows you, but he is in a relationship. He's a happily married man. I hope you're happy.
Yeah.
You sound happy.
Hey, absolutely, I'm happy, man. And here's the thing too, though. Like I always, even with people like that, you don't have to. You know, somebody doesn't have to be in something to be able to drop some knowledge on you on something, right? So I always tell people, I mean, granted, you want people to have been through certain things, but at the end of the day, you got to look at who's sharing the knowledge with you, right? And what kind of results do you get from that knowledge. Now, exactly. And as far as the book goes, right? So I always tell people, number one, you can get it on Amazon. You know, just go to Amazon, look it up, look me up, Troy Spry. But it's called "Teach Me How to Love While What You Don't Know Will Hurt You." And what you'll get from that is
that's the quarantine beard you got right there.
Yep, that's the quarantine beard. You see, I'm kind of bare on there. It's, you know, I'm kind of bare face on there. I kind of grew up a little bit though. I like my beard now though. I kind of like it. You know what I mean? But no, I mean, to me, the book is one of those things where number one, go read the comments. I mean, go read the reviews on it and see if it's for you. But if you are someone out there that's that dating or in a relationship and you found yourself over and over and over again on emotional roller coasters, you know, you're tired of not getting it right, and you just want a little bit more guidance, a little bit more advice, a little bit more of a structure around what you're doing, then go get the book, right? Because what you don't know will hurt you.
No doubt, absolutely.
Right?
I want to address two things real quick as we narrow it down. One of them is I see people said, you know, the term struggle love. It's hard to avoid certain instances as it appears to, you know, as it comes to love when people are making such beautiful songs about it. You know, Jaheim has a very beautiful song saying he missed that struggle love. So that would make somebody think something dysfunctional is what they desire, because if we ain't got this struggle love, then do we really got love? That's like people say, oh, if he don't hit me, he don't love me. If he don't argue with me, if she don't argue with me, she don't love me. If she ain't stalking me, I ain't handling my business like I am, because, you know, and I think that's a little crazy. Also, the young lady said, she doesn't know you, but she said something to the effect of, you know, with you being in a relationship, you know, you should probably post your wife more on social media. I got a position I take on that. What's your position on posting your personal relationship on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, like, number one, my wife's all over my social media. she's all over it. If you go to my Facebook page, she just ain't catch it. I got a lot of content, right? My anniversary picture is probably the last one that's up there, right? My daughter's up there more than my wife is. To me, but social media doesn't validate my relationship.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You can find, I mean, it's no secret that I'm married. I sit here with my ring on, you know, all day. It's not something I'm trying to hide, you know, at all. So I always tell people, if you need social media to validate your relationship, then you got problems, right? You got bigger problems than anything else. Now, on the other side of it is, if somebody is hiding you, that's different, right? If you value that validation, or at least being claimed, then the person that's with you won't have a problem with that. But it's not like you shouldn't be forcing them to have to post you every day to prove you there. If you need that validation, then you got some other self-work you got to do, right? You got some more work to do because you feel like you need that to validate the health of your relationship. People post their mate every day and they still beating them up at night. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't dictate the health of your relationship. So for me, you know what? I actually get this question a lot. a question about like,
Mm.
oh, he won't post me on social media. Should I be worried? Stuff like that. And I'm like, man, you got bigger problems. if that's
Shit.
what you worried now, if that's what you worried about and that's what you focused on. The question is, how does he treat you? Right?
Mm.
How does he treat you? Are you happy? Is it healthy? Is it functional? Right? Now,
Mm.
is he hiding you? That's a different subject. If he or she is hiding you, that's different. You'll know that though. Social media shouldn't be a validation. What did we do before social media was here?
Mm.
How did you know somebody was with somebody?
And see, like a brother like myself, like I told you, when I entered my relationship that I was in for the longest amount of time, there was no social media. So, coming back on the block is like, oh, really? This is what we doing? Because I always say I wouldn't necessarily stand on the corner of 42nd Street. I probably would because I'm a little bugged out sometimes. But the average person ain't gonna stand on the corner of the most busiest block in their neighborhood going, I'm in a relationship.
This is my girl right here.
Yeah, like why is that necessary? That's a little insecure to me. But
Yeah,
man, oh man, good brother, you got such a wealth of information. I'm totally impressed. I don't feel like this was enough time to cover a lot of the stuff that I really wanted to cover. So I definitely would like to have you come back periodically, man, and chop it up with us, especially
let's
when
do it.
that next book comes out. But we got a lot of layers to peel back from this book and some other some more ground to cover, man.
Yeah.
Can you just give people all of your social information where they can find you, I pinned where they can get the book from, but just
hmm
anything you would want people to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at exclusivethoughts.com. That's XKLUSIVE thoughts.com. That's where you can find all my videos, blogs, things like that. And of course, you can get the book, where you got it pinned at on Amazon. And follow me on Instagram. If you're on Instagram right now looking at this, go ahead and hit the follow button on there. If you hit the follow button, then we connected. And then you can find me anywhere else that you want to.
Absolutely, man. This was beautiful, Troy.
I appreciate you, brother.
You the homie now, man. I hope you understand that.
Absolutely.
And I'll definitely be sharing as much of your information as possible with the people. I really definitely respect your perspective and the way that you address this. Um, one last thing. We got about a minute
Yeah,
left.
yeah,
How
it's
you
cool.
holding up during this pandemic, and what advice can you quickly give the people that are dealing with certain situations during the pandemic in their relationship?
All right, I'm holding up good, but I will tell it's different, right? Because you got to spend a lot of more time together. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like this is a perfect time to reconnect,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're in a relationship, it's the perfect time to reconnect and get to know each other again without all the minutia of the day to day, right? Get to know each other again. Be creative with one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
Find some different ideas. You got to have I had a garage date the other day where I set the garage up, we had dinner or whatever.
That was
Have
fly.
a porch date, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
If you're dating, it's a perfect time to get to know people for real, right? Because
Okay.
you can't see them, so you need to be talking.
Absolutely. So we're gonna leave it with that. I don't want them to cut us off when you're in the middle of your
Yeah,
conversation. But thank you so much, good brother. And
I
we'll be talking
appreciate you.
shortly. All right. One love,
All
one
right, bro.
life. Peace and blessings to everybody that chimed in, man. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks to the audience out there. Peace.